have you been a Devils fan?
Since I was a kid. I'm from Jersey.
Yeah? Well, we're gonna kick your butts tonight.
Hey, no way, man.
Yes.
We're primed.
All right, you almost ready? Because Jerry and Kramer are gonna be here any second. What the?
So what do you think?
What is that?
I painted my face.
You painted your face?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, you know, support the team.
Well, you can't.
This is HBR News number 433. Mayor Eric Adams is Me Too'd, Derek Chauvin stabbing, bank shooting manifesto, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Hannah Wallen and Mike Stevenson, or Dr. Random McCam. We have Mike J is here. He just showed up, so we also have Mike J. And we have a great show lineup for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's HBR News Show, we're going to be talking about the reported stabbing of former officer Derek Chauvin in federal prison, I believe. The release manifesto of this Louisville Old National bank shooting that you might remember. New York Mayor Eric Adams is accused of sexual assault from back in 1993 and more. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So I guess I don't watch anymore, but I guess Doctor Who had a special and it was the worst thing ever. So of course the Mary Sue is gonna defend it, and they wrote an article about it, and we have like a special relationship with the Mary Sue. So we're gonna be looking at this opinion piece called "Transphobes Are Mad About Aliens Having Pronouns." Again, I didn't know that this was a thing that's happened before, but maybe we'll learn something from them about that. So if you want to join us on the patron show to take a look at this beautiful and lovely and totally fair and balanced Mary Sue article, you have to become a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you will be able to watch all of the additional after show content as well as all the other community stuff. As Allison said on yesterday's show, most of the work that she does at HBR is in community orienting or community organizing stuff, which includes the Discord. So, you know, if you want to be a part of it, it is definitely a community worth checking out. So, and if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been yeeted from the internet, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com, where all of our content is archived. And lastly, a shout out to the Rumble gang. I see you guys. You are seen. You are heard. You exist. You are validated. And please check us out over on Rumble. Follow us over there. That is Honey Badger Radio, I believe, or HB Radio on Rumble. Just search
it's
that.
HB Radio.
Yeah, HB Radio on Rumble, right. HB
and
Radio.
we are grateful for that, because the bigger the Rumble presence becomes, the more leverage creators have with regard to other platforms that want to be more censorious and less generous when it comes to sharing revenue. So it's good when we have more people visit us on Rumble.
Yes, I was going to say real quick about Rumble. I watch Dan Bongino, who is he used to work on Fox News. He's just kind of like a blue collar guy, used to work in the police force and Secret Service, and now he does political commentary. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because he used to be on YouTube, and at the time, according to him, he said he had about more than 300,000 subscribers. So not bad. I mean, definitely bigger than us, right? But then he said he moved to Rumble because he didn't want to deal with YouTube anymore. And he made the transition and left YouTube completely and just told his base to just come to Rumble and watch him there. And now that he's been on Rumble for a while, he has over 3 million subscribers. So he has basically like done, 3 times. He's doing 3 times as much his audience is 3 times the size as it was, and it's probably because he has more reach. YouTube isn't really around to sort of prevent that. And I think the same has happened with other big YouTubers, or at least some YouTubers that YouTube doesn't like, that have gone to Rumble, like Steven Crowder and Teal Deer and others. So I think that Rumble is legitimately a viable platform. If Dan Bongino can get 3 million people on Rumble watching him, I think it's a viable platform for anybody. So please follow us on Rumble. Try to watch us there. I know it doesn't have all of the cool features that YouTube has, but I think it's a site better than other alternatives like BitChute. So I would definitely go to Rumble and give us a follow and watch us there. Plus you get to play with GIFs, and that's more fun than YouTube's like limited ability to do that. So
for those of you watching this on a PlayStation, look, I know it's more convenient to watch YouTube because it has its own app on the PlayStation. You just go right in. Whereas Rumble, you have to go to
the browser.
To the browser. Yes, there is a browser on your PlayStation, kids. I don't know if you knew that. You can go there.
I think most people. Go ahead.
It saves your most frequently visited pages. So as soon as you go there and press the R2 button, it'll take you to your most frequently visited pages. It's 2 extra clicks of a button, presses of a button on your controller, just to get to the Rumble page of the creator you like. And you can have 6 tabs on the same page. It's really not that much more effort. I know YouTube is more convenient, but you'd be amazed. It's not that much more convenient than just your good old browser and your good old save tabs, most of which should be Rumble at this point.
And I think that Rumble, there is an app, because I usually use the app for Rumble or my computer. And there are some limitations on the app. Like some people say that they use the app and it doesn't have live chat, and I but maybe that will be fixed. If Rumble continues to grow, I think they'll add more. So even if you don't use Rumble as your primary video platform, I would give it a sub just so that there is a presence there. So, maybe just it's a free account, roll it up, whatever, and follow us on Rumble. Follow us on Twitch too. Why not? But and Twitter, because Twitter is not too bad on the free speech thing, and I think that's the main reason. But anyway, with all that out of the way, let's get into the story. So I'm going to hand it off to Mike J. I haven't checked to see if your audio is okay, but I assume it is, right?
Should be.
Yeah, it sounds good. Okay. All right, let's talk about what's going on with Derek Chauvin.
So according to an anonymous source within the prison, last Friday, former police officer Derek Chauvin was stabbed by another inmate at the federal prison in Tucson, Arizona. The Bureau of Prisons was only able to confirm that an inmate was assaulted and that life-saving measures were performed before the unnamed inmate was taken to a hospital. Chauvin's lawyers and the FBI have not commented on the incident or confirmed any details as of late. This is the second major incident to happen at the Federal Correction Institution, Tucson, in the past year. Earlier this year, an inmate smuggled a gun into the prison and attempted to kill a visitor. Luckily, the weapon misfired.
I'm reminded of the meme that goes along the lines of men would rather do X than go to therapy. Okay, well, this is the length you guys will go to. You would rather commit basically a human sacrifice and a summer of international rioting, causing God knows how many billions of dollars in damages and God knows how many deaths. You'd rather do all that than admit you have a fentanyl problem. If you wanted to make George Floyd a martyr, you could have done it legitimately by making him the poster boy for all the fentanyl deaths, of which there are thousands. Now, you could say it was the meth that killed him, for 'twas also in his system. You could say it was the COVID. Millions apparently would in principle, but don't in practice. But my money is on the 4 times the lethal dose of a notoriously deadly street drug. The one time we could actually benefit from a war on drugs, and apparently the governments are no longer interested. And then this global machine of awareness raising that was harnessed for the sake of calling all cops bastards could instead have been used to address the fentanyl problem, or at least slow down the flow of this drug, this honest bioweapon, a truck full of which is enough to kill everyone in the country, as armadas of the stuff is shipped over from China. But we can't have that. We can't highlight the reality of Black Americans being poisoned by the Chinese government, because that will not create the precise kind of racial tension we're looking for. It might offer some unwanted explanation for all the Black on Asian crime that seems to be on the rise. It might offer an explanation other than white supremacy. See, it has to result in the sacrifice of men, specifically white men, specifically straight, white, cisgendered, etc. men. It doesn't matter where this spaghetti intersection goes, where it twists and meanders on its journey through racial and general unrest, as long as all roads lead to the Ubermensch getting punished and one of their figureheads getting severely punished as you know, a warning to the rest of them. Derek Chauvin is a human sacrifice. One day he got up and he just did his thing, he did his job, and as a result he found himself in a burning wicker man as a ceremonial sacrifice in someone else's race war. Much like Tommy Robinson, actually.
Yeah.
Over there. Hey, I'm not there. I'm here. I'm not in Britain.
Back home, I think is what you would say.
Back home. You've got vast crowds of people warmongering over Palestine, warmongering over Israel. They're vandalizing everything, blocking the streets, violently intimidating everyone around them, including the police. And the police don't do anything. The Muslims want a sacrificed Jew for a trophy. The Jews want a sacrificed Muslim for a trophy, but the police can't do that. Either option would be racist to your see, but as soon as Tommy Robinson turns up and literally just stands there, it's like a spark in the powder keg, and every cop within smelling distance surrounds him like these killer hornets, drag him into the back of a van and haul him back to jail for literally no reason. He was just standing there. And then they go check
right away.
Right to
and then they go, check it out, guys. We've captured the anti-Semitism and the Islamophobia at the same time. Now let's take this bag off his head and see who it really was. Oh, look, it was Tommy Robinson all along. And he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for us meddling kids. All right, this time we'll have him fatally shivved for real. You all have your human sacrificial trophy, and it's white and male and Western and everything. And so you can all go back to fighting your own wars in your own fucking countries and letting us have our streets back, please. They don't say that last part. Obviously, that was me. They've already sacrificed the streets. At this point, their only mission is to sacrifice men, the ordinary men of whichever nation in which this oikophobic mind virus is spreading. And don't go thinking you're safe just because you're not the sacrifice, just because you're highly unlikely to be the guy in the burning wicker man. They're punishing you too by restricting everything you can do because of your race, just sex or whatever. All of this is an excuse to punish you. Mm-hmm. Even the guy getting burned at the stake is just an effigy of you, the ordinary men of your nation. Two other races are fighting, you get punished. Two other religions are fighting, you get punished. Two women are fighting, you bet your ass you're getting punished. And no, I don't know how to fix such a broken system. All we can really do is the small things. Just give each other a break. Maybe your next door neighbor's not so bad. Maybe your landlord's not so bad. Maybe that asshole who cut you off in traffic is no more of an asshole than you are. Road rage does strange things to people's brains, after all, that we would never do in polite company. So yeah, on the smallest of scales, calm down, give each other a break. No one needs to get honked at. No one needs to get tailgated. And no one needs to get railroaded by a terrorized jury and then shanked in prison just for doing their job. It's mental. Don't do it. And don't take fentanyl, or your ghost might haunt murals and giant walls across the world forever, or until they get struck by lightning.
There was one thing when I was listening to Biden's speech a couple of days ago after that visit with Commander the Pooh from China. Just piggybacking off this fentanyl problem thing, where it was like in any other context, what Biden was saying would be just like the stupidest thing. It's like he was talking about it's like, imagine if he came out and said, well, the aliens have agreed to limit the amount of toxins they are spreading into our Earth by 20%. And I think that's a win. We did really well with this one. And they're going to give us an alien panda next year, maybe.
Yeah.
Now, replace aliens with China and replace toxin with fentanyl. And see, it sounds kind of fucking weird, doesn't it?
It does.
Yep.
If this was anywhere else, we would be declaring war on them in 2 seconds.
Or something, like doing something about it. So, I just want to point out that I called it. I said that if he goes to jail, there are going to be attempts on his life. And I said that they probably won't put him in a jail where he would be safe. Because, when you would think that when cops go to prison, the prison sentence is the sentence, not the murder. It's like when you send a man to prison, and some people joke about men being raped in prison. Right, like that's and what it does is it creates the impression that the rape in prison is part of the sentence. It is not. Okay, that is not a bonus. That is something that should be avoided. And so I predicted when they convicted him, which I knew they were going to, and I'm going to go into that in a moment, that there was going to be attempts on his life. And remember, he's not the only one that went. The whole team, all 4 cops, went to jail. He goes for over 20 years because he's the face of the incident. He is as Mike said, the martyr. He is the wicker man. But the other guys, the other cops, they also went to jail, and they're going for 5 years or so. So they're all screwed. And I knew that we talked about, we went through the footage. We went through the body cam. We went through the autopsy. We knew all of this was bullshit. And now there's a couple of other things I want to say. Okay, first of all, billions of dollars in damage. Billions of dollars in damage all over the world in countries that had nothing to do with this. Not that most of the places where this happened in the United States had anything to do with this either. Billions of dollars in damages. Thousands of injuries and casualties, you could say. At least 24 deaths, some of which were murders, over one death that is not a murder. But let's look at this. Let's look at this, okay? There's a guy who died under unfortunate circumstances, and then there are people who were murdered, but we're supposed to care more about the guy who died and not the people who have been murdered, most of whom we don't know their names, except for that guy from Patriot Prayer that was shot. Kyle Rittenhouse only is a person we know the name of because of these riots. We only know his name because of this. David Dorn, the cop who was murdered when he was helping a friend protect his business, another one. We only know his name because of this, because of these riots, because of this death and destruction, okay? And here's the real kicker. Obviously, the jury had to convict him because they had fencing around the courthouse. there were threats. There was no way a person on the jury could not have seen any social media, any press, any coverage of this and have been affected by it. There is no way. And the judge said that. But here's another thing. So there's a documentary called The Fall of Minneapolis. I shared it in the newsroom in this Discord. Did you guys see the link? It's probably a little like in the past. It's on Rumble. It's about an hour and 45 minutes. And in it, they basically, this is what is found, okay? The officers were thrown under the bus by the government of Minnesota and the government of the country. So the feds, the White House, and all the people, I'm talking city council, mayor, governor, and what's the other guy? The DA, all of them sided with Floyd and threw the cops under the bus. And the one thing that got them convicted, the one thing that was used against them was the claim, and the police chief was the other, the commissioner. So you have all of these people in political positions making a political decision to destroy the lives of 4 guys trying to do their job, okay? And the main method they did, and these guys, like Derek Chauvin, worked in that neighborhood for 10 years. And I said this before, I said this many times. Do you think that the guy who worked in this community for 10 years, one day decided he was going to kill a black guy because he hates them? Do you really think that? If you do, you need to get your brain checked, because that's ridiculous, okay? But that's the narrative. I said from the beginning, this is not the trial of a person. This is not the trial of a person that did something. This is a trial of what the accusation is not murder. The accusation is racism. That's what the accusation is. And the jury and the activists and the feminists that run Black Lives Matter that made billions of dollars off of this, billions of dollars, and his family that were not involved with him at all until this happened and there's like a fucking payout, they're the ones that benefited. So what the key piece of evidence was this notion. The commissioner was asked by the prosecutor if the method that was used to restrain George Floyd, that is claimed to have taken his life, which it wasn't, but that was the method that was the critical moment. He was asked, the commissioner was asked, is this the way that you're supposed to do it? Is this what you were trained for? Is this the training that you give to your officers? And he said, no, it isn't. And in the documentary, a woman, because there's a bunch of ex-cops that used to work in Minneapolis, and they're all giving testimonies. And the woman brings out the fucking book that tells you how to do it. And it is exactly the thing. So the commissioner knows this. The DA, Keith Ellison, whose son is in Antifa and basically is on the city council, commies, they knew about it. The mayor knows about it. The governor knows about it. The fucking White House knew about it. But it was just the right time, and they destroyed the lives of these police officers because they wanted to get reelected, because they wanted to make a bunch of money. Now, this is true. Watch it yourself. It's called Fall of Minneapolis. Watch it yourself. Now, libertarians, if you hate the cops and you're not looking at the fucking people who hire them and give them orders and throw them under the bus, what the fuck are you doing? Because they're the ones that did this. This guy's life did not have to go this way. It did not have to happen. Now he's almost dead. And there are people on Twitter celebrating this because they think for some reason this guy decided one day he was going to kill black people because he hates them. And you believe that. And meanwhile, Keith Ellison and the mayor and the governor and the police commissioner and all these fucking corrupt left-wing whatever commies are just benefiting from this. And all you got to do, and you can't take your eyes off of the cops when you're not looking at the people who are actually pulling the strings. Anyway, that's it. So this guy's life, I hope he survives. I hope that he gets acquitted or something, because this is bullshit. And I was so angry when I watched, you guys got to watch the documentary. I was so angry when it was over because everyone makes this out to be so simple and black and white. And it's not. Like, these guys got fucked. by their bosses, and you're still siding against them instead of the people who did this. Anyway, that's it.
So the thing I want people to understand about this, I actually want you to watch an old movie from I can't remember now if it's the late 80s or the early 90s, but The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and pay attention to the way video is used and manipulated in the news. And I want you to remember that over the last several years, we've seen all kinds of information come out about how news video is manipulated. And we've been told about this by actually the people that are doing it for decades, that this kind of manipulation takes place in media specifically to control your opinion. That's the first thing to pay attention to. And yeah, the movie, if you expect the movie to be like
The Running Man is
the story, you're gonna hate it.
I love that movie. I think it's great.
But I love the movie, and I love the story. I just don't try to pretend that one is directly related to the other. Like, they use the same title and a little bit of the same story, but the important thing to pay attention to is that manipulation. That is consistent between the two. And when you consider that in regard to this story, there's some other things that you also need to remember. The United States government is not incapable of controlling the border. They could completely control the border if they wanted to between the United States and Mexico. They could completely cut off illegal immigration. It can be done. When they tell you it can't, they are lying. The United States could completely stop the flow of fentanyl and other drugs if they wanted to. They have the resources, they have the personnel, they have the people that are willing to do it. The states are willing to dedicate resources and personnel to this. And we have had an epidemic of fentanyl, of heroin, of all kinds of drugs coming through, all kinds of substances, all kinds of crime, child trafficking coming through that border, uncontrolled, for the entire lifetime of Generation X. And for the entire lifetime of Generation X, it has the potential for controlling that, the capability of putting a complete stop to that has existed. We have been able to do that. And it has not been done. Right? That is called allowing something to happen so that you can use it as an excuse for something else. Right? What are they using it to excuse? They are using it to excuse a police state. And then they are using the police to control people. They are using the police to intimidate people. And then they are using the media to turn people against the police to create more of an excuse for a police state. So when you oppose the individual guys, when you say all cops are bad, when you say, nobody becomes a police officer if they're not malicious and all that, you are missing the point. They are not the problem in government. They are a symptom of the problem. You are being manipulated. You are being lied to. You are being used. You are being exploited by the very authoritarians that you think you are opposing. And it's working because they are using emotional appeals like this. Nobody got to Chauvin by accident. Nobody got to Chauvin because the prison couldn't stop them. Because the government couldn't stop them. That happened because somebody let it happen on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's appealing his sentence.
Yeah,
and if he wins that appeal, no, but if he wins that appeal, he will destroy their narrative.
Yes.
So this will happen again. They will allow this to happen again. This was permitted. This was not This didn't happen out of control. It may have happened out of control of the administrators, or at least the guards at that prison, but it definitely did not happen out of control of the government that controls it. It is bullshit. And if you look at the system that this is happening in, we want to say that slavery ended in the United States during the Civil War. It didn't. Okay?
Yeah.
It transferred to our prison system. That is our slave system now. It is not even debatable. They round people up for things that don't necessarily involve anybody else, right? Using a drug doesn't create a victim outside the person that's using the drug. Crime committed around the drug use does, but that crime happens with the government's permission. That crime happens because they've outlawed the possession and use of drugs, but then they're letting them pour into the country, like water out of a broken dam. And then they're rounding people up for this and throwing them in prison for extended sentences and using them for slave labor. Mostly men.
Sure.
Mostly men. And disproportionately minority men. That is our slave system. If you are outraged over something, if you really want to be outraged over something, be outraged over that.
Well, also be outraged over the fact that over 97% of the people in prison don't know their fathers.
Yep.
Maybe that's got something to do with it too.
But the thing is, none of this is outside of the control of the government. This is deliberately cultivated. That's where you should be mad. If you're going to be mad at somebody, don't take it out on the guy that gets, $50,000 a year if he's lucky, walking a beat or driving a beat. Take it out on the politicians that control his job, that let drugs into the country, that don't control the border, that use laws to penalize people for making choices about their own bodies while telling everybody they're pro-choice because they let women kill their babies. Take it out on those guys. Write to them. Call them. Harass their offices.
There's something else too.
That's what needs to happen.
What happened here is that these government officials that have no skin in the game, they're not out there. They're not looking at what's going on, right? They're not they're in cushy desk jobs, governor, mayor, even the police chief. The cops, and not just the cops involved in the George Floyd incident, but all the police in the force, that were essentially targets for the rioters, for the gangs, because it's another thing in the documentary that they don't tell you in the media is that it's run by gangster disciples and Bloods and stuff like that. So you have gangs that are organized, and they have people in government, and you have these politicians. And the police were essentially not equipped with what they would need just to control the crowd. They didn't give them anything. There were tons of injuries. Cops resigned. And now you might say, I'm the most pro Second Amendment guy in the world. Why don't they just have guns? Well, because the people at the top, like I said, the governors, the mayors, the senators, the president, the Congress, they want gun control. So what do people do if you have a state like Minnesota that has extremely high gun control? Of course, the gangs still get guns. And then the people are not allowed to get them, or they're discouraged heavily from getting them. Do you just say, fuck those people because they don't deserve police? Or do we understand that we live on Earth, and here, which is not fucking Wonderland, you have to operate within the limits of what exists. You can't have exactly what you want. It's just, it's the thing about this ANCAP shit which I agree with in principle. The problem is that we don't live in that world. That's fucking magical land. That's rainbows and ponies and unicorns. We don't live there. We live here, where most of the men and women who are born don't know their father. There's a big problem with teen pregnancy, there's gang violence, there's drug abuse, there's all of these issues that create criminality, right? And there's something that has to be done about that. So yeah, on Earth, we need police. Sorry, that's the way it is. You want to change it? You got to do it slowly. You can't just take it away. You can't just shit on these people. Like these guys, they put their lives on the line every day. I thought you guys cared about men, by the way. Don't like most cops that are competent at all and willing to put themselves at risk are fucking men. Do you not care about those guys? Oh, those guys aren't men. They're just monsters to you? Okay, then. And again, you're not putting the onus where it belongs. These guys got left out in the cold. Their superiors did not support them where they had historically in the past done so. So you have a situation where people were They watched their friends get beaten. They watched some of them get injured, go to hospitals, die, resign. And these are people who had been on the force for 10, 15, 20 years. And all of it was gone because of political expediency. That was what it was done for. All of this was, and they tell you in the documentary, this was all done so that these people could get reelected, so they can keep raking in the money, so they can keep working with the gangs and with the drug dealers and with the president and their party and everything. That is everything. And the police, who are just people who said, I think I want to protect my community. You know, you wouldn't say this about firefighters. Nobody says this about firefighters. They get the same reason why they decide to become firefighters. It's the same shit. You're not thinking. You are feeling. That's what I think. So, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to drop it, but this should not have happened to this guy. These men did not deserve this. And I do say that they are men because that's what they are. And that's what this channel is about. I'm sorry you don't like them. I'm sorry, but they're still fucking men. I will defend any man regardless. I defend male feminists. I defend Harvey Weinstein. I defend Bill Cosby. And fucking Lord have mercy, I will also defend police officers because they deserve to be defended. That's what we do here. All right, anybody else got any thoughts on this?
No, I just want to point out that this is...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I thought for a second I thought it was muted. This is top down. When you go after cops, you're going after the people in the bottom rung. This is top down. This is president, Congress, governors, and state legislators, right? That's where this is coming from, and the cops are often just as much caught in the machine as you are, and Chauvin found that out.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly.
Like I said, I expect this to happen to him again because they have to get rid of him because he is fighting to prove his innocence. He is fighting for his appeal. He is fighting to win, and they can't allow that. Mm-hmm. Either that, or he's going to end up dropping his appeal so that he doesn't die, because that was punishment for him appealing his conviction.
Yeah,
and you just have to know that.
And I think, and the problem is too, is if you make one person into a sacrificial lamb, then you are opening the door to make anyone, because now you have to maintain the lie. And so from now on, you have to keep doing this. And maybe it'll be the people you don't like cops, but maybe one day it won't be. Maybe it'll be a paramedic. Maybe it'll be an ambulance driver. Maybe it'll be a fireman. Maybe it'll be a soldier. Are you going to do the same shit, or are you going to be consistent now?
Yes, they're going to do the same shit because all of the above are men.
Yeah, they're all men. Exactly. And like, it keeps coming back to the same thing. But anyway, I got a super chow. I'm going to read it. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Meredith G, top G, Meredith G gives us $5. She is the top G, not Andrew Tate. and says, HBR News number 433, Honey for the Badgers. Keep in mind that people at the heads of police forces are political figures. Yes, they are. The corrosion starts at the top. So if we want a fairer system, we need to pay attention to the people who end up in those positions. And if we can vote for them, pay attention to the people we vote for. Our local politicians make our lives as miserable as the federal officials. That's true. Thank you, Meredith. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Keith Ellison. I learned about it like right after. There's a photo of him, and he's got the, I think it's the Antifa guidebook or something, and he's smiling with it. His son or his daughter or something, they're in Antifa. They're like, and his kids are also on the city council. So you have communists that are super authoritarian on the city council, throwing cops into jail, essentially. And how can you, if you're on the jury, you know that there are commies in your government, and even if you want to do the right thing, is it really worth that? I mean, you have to consider that these people are intimidated by the mob, essentially. It's the mob. So there's it's one of these things that doesn't have a clear, I mean, it's not as easy as people would make it out to be, is what I'm saying. Does it take courage to say the truth? Yeah, it does. But I fear that most people don't have that. It's just too dangerous. But there definitely has to be something that changes, and we have to look at this in the correct fashion. So anyway, that was a long one. I'm sorry. We're going to move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments, and I look forward to seeing your thoughts. So, all right. So last week, a report, the Louisville Metro Police Department released a report on the detailed journal of a gunman who committed a shooting in the Old National Bank in April. So this is Louisville. You might remember there was a shooting at the Old National Bank. Connor Sturgeon, 25, gunned down co-workers inside of a conference room at Old National Bank, Louisville, Kentucky, before he was shot and killed by police. He killed 5 people: Thomas Elliott, James Tuff, Juliana Farmer, Joshua Barrick, and Judy Eckert, and injured 8, apparently motivated by his outrage over gun laws, which his journals revealed he considered lax, and hoped a bloody rampage of white victims would spur politicians into action. Ironic. From the 64-page report, in one letter, Sturgeon writes, quote, "This country and its politicians have decided that money is more valuable than lives. Let's see if that changes once the fat cats start feeling the pain. They won't listen to words or protests, so let's see if they listen to bullets," end quote. He continues, quote, "Perhaps this is the impact for change. Upper-class white people dying. I certainly would not have been able to do this were it more difficult to get a gun," end quote. His goals for the shooting were to kill himself and to, quote, "stop gun violence, to send a message to politicians," end quote, asking his parents to fight lawmakers on lax gun laws, saying, quote, do what you can to help others and stop the state of sale of WMDs, that's weapons of mass destruction, to psychopaths like me," end quote. The report included Sturgeon's bizarre rants about the corrupt Supreme Court, climate change, the National Rifles Association's lobbyist dollars, and a reference to Linkin Park's Lost. The band, Linkin Park, of which the lead singer, I believe, committed suicide, but that's neither here nor there, maybe. According to Sturgeon's family, he was experiencing a decline in mental health and had attempted suicide in 2022. They also revealed that he was on various medications for his mental health issues. Victims' families are planning to sue the rifle maker used in the shooting. So his family is following up on his wishes, and they're trying to sue the manufacturer of the gun that he used. In Kentucky, Sturgeon faced no barriers for the purchase of the gun, as he had no prior criminal record. The state does not have a red flag law to prevent potentially dangerous people from buying and possessing guns. However, Sturgeon's mental health struggles had not been reported to authorities, so a red flag law may not have made a difference in this case.
This is you say ironic, but ironically, it's not ironic, because I mean this is such a good plan that I'm going to rephrase that. I'm already going to rephrase. I mean, strategically speaking, if your goal is to make people terrified of guns by using guns in the worst way they can be used, this is the way to go. It's at least a consistent message. Raise awareness of a particular danger by demonstrating that danger. It's like Edison electrocuting an elephant. It's a fucking sick thing to do, and you should go to jail forever for it. But fair play, it is a convincing demonstration of the dangers of, in this case, alternating current. Murdering innocent people with a gun is a convincing demonstration of the dangers of guns. You can't even be dismissed as a false flag. It wouldn't work as a false flag by the side that wants to demonize the gun grabbers, because you'll only end up demonizing the guns, and the whole plan would, well, backfire, pun intended. So you have to wonder why this doesn't happen more often. Or if indeed the question is how often it has already happened. Of all the reports of mass shootings, why does it seem so few of them are ideologically possessed leftist gun grabbers with nothing left to lose? I suppose an obvious answer is those kinds of people don't tend to have guns or have access to guns or have grown up in a household with any guns. And it turns out guns aren't as easy to get hold of as they think they are, especially when they're 14. If a 14-year-old blue-haired wanker had access to their parents' guns, you could bet your ass they'll be killing people left, right, and center. But their parents are probably hippies too, and they have nothing to hide from their children, except perhaps all the porn and the meth. I suppose another equally obvious answer is these people are pussies, for the most part. For every, one PC bro, consent form frat boy type who will beat children to death with his bare hands just for the opportunity to crush some puss, for every one of them, there are 100 spineless, worm-tongued gremlins who live only to make other people fight over the pointless bullshit in which they're interested. Why, yes, they are mostly women. How did you know? But yes, it stands to reason that anyone in favor of being disarmed by the government is overwhelmingly likely to be a gigantic gamer word who is incapable of fighting their own battles, let alone someone else's battles, from anywhere but the comfort of a large group of masked hooligans whom the police will not arrest. But I think some thought should be given to another possibility. Maybe there are more of these kinds of shooters than we're led to believe. Maybe there are more of these manifestos than we're led to believe. Bear in mind, we only hear about this stuff through the mass media, and until quite recently, the mass media has been a closed system, controlled only by the corporate elite. And regardless of which side of the gun control debate they fall, it is not in their interests to inform the public of this kind of incident. The gun grabbers don't like it because it makes their side look bad, and the gun rights advocates don't like it because it makes guns look bad. So they can both fall back on what is actually the ethical thing to do with mass murderers, which is don't make them famous. Don't give violent, suicidal egomaniacs the opportunity to get their names written in the history books. It is retarded on its face, and it attracts copycats. When both sides of the uniparty can agree on burying an inconvenient truth, they will do so. It would be foolish to assume they haven't done so. There's no telling how many times this has happened, but it's always been kept to the realms of local news, where it belongs, be it out of ethics or expedience or whatever. Of course, it was after Columbine that the gun grabbers broke the silence. That was when they went, yeah, who cares about copycat killers? The ends justify the means. Let's grab every mass shooting story we can find except the gang shootings in Chicago, and of course, and will make out like every perpetrator of a mass shooting is a misogynistic, racist, toxic male. But like we've been doing with all males for the last few decades, just calling them misogynistic, racist, toxic males, which I'm sure has no connection with how they all feel like shit and want to kill themselves and other people. Ho diddly hum. Yeah, I'm not buying it. We've seen how easy it is for the police and the media to bury information about manifestos and whatnot. Maybe it's not a coincidence that in this age of technology and independent journalism, we're finally able to see what the media has never let us see. The shady world of little leftist Ted Kaczynskis running around doing whatever they can to bring down the Second Amendment and its consequences. It's food for thought, but I guess we'll never know. So it's not even food for thought. It's the imaginary seeds of imaginary food for imaginary thought, whatever that is.
Well, it's not every day that the manipulators come out and just flat out tell you how they're trying to manipulate you, but this time they did. And there's a lot you could say about this guy's mentality and everything. The fact that he believed that nobody is paying attention to this issue indicates that he's listening to mainstream media that does nothing but report on the issue of supposed gun violence, which is just human violence. All human violence is human violence, regardless of what you use as your tool when you're committing it. But in any case, it's quite obvious that his entire outlook came from watching places like CNN, MSNBC, and where they have made it their mission to get people to believe that a problem can't be noticed, can't be recognized by the public, can't be addressed in society unless it happens to white people, right? That whole white privilege narrative, he had swallowed that hook, line, and sinker. But I don't think mental illness is the excuse. It gives a convenient scapegoat, but I don't think it's a good excuse at all for this situation. This was flat out cynical, right? This wasn't, I'm nuts, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't understand the situation, I don't have touch with reality, blah, blah, blah. No, this guy flat out said he was murdering human beings to make a political statement, to make a point, to get people to believe a thing is true. His motive was to exploit what he was told exists, white privilege, to get people to change their minds on an issue that he was told he was on the right side of, right? And that's how he decided he was going to do it. He was going to be violent and kill people. Targeted. That's not because he's crazy, and it's not because guns made him do it. It's not because he couldn't help himself and he just happened to get his hands on a gun. This was planned. It was deliberate. And that should tell you something about that mentality. It's completely cynical. It's completely sociopathic. The idea that it's okay to sacrifice human beings' lives, and random human beings at that, in order to change people's minds on a political issue. That's pretty much wokeism in a nutshell.
He was on.
You get from it's okay to punch Nazis and everyone I disagree with is a Nazi, to it's okay to shoot randos because guns are bad and people don't realize it. That's pretty much his logic that he stated. It's okay to shoot randos who might even be on the same side of the issue as he is. These might have been anybody. These
Yep.
people that he killed, right? It's okay to shoot randos, he thinks,
Yep.
because
I think
guns
the
are
media
bad, and I
did-
want to make people see it.
Yeah, I
That's
think the
his
media
whole logic.
initially. I think the media initially tried to make this into a racial, like he was a white supremacist shooter, like way back when it happened. But it turned out that one of the victims was black, or no, not black. One of the victims was white, so it wasn't that. And
Yeah.
while he was criticizing like white people, he did gun down some non-white people. So it's probably maybe he was thinking they were politically white adjacent, therefore no longer not white. But I don't think that those are the important things. I think that, of what I'm saying. Now, obviously, you guys are saying important things. But first of all, I wonder what medications he was on, because I'm hearing that some psychiatric meds can really mess you up, like more than whatever condition you're trying to treat. That's one thing. The other thing is,
Well,
that
if he
there's-
was on SSRIs,
yeah, I was
and
thinking
he
SSRIs.
had-
I think that's sort of standard now.
So here's the thing: SSRIs do not take a person who doesn't have a violent bone in their body and make them violent.
No,
They
I'm not
take a
saying that.
person who they take a person who has struggles, but isn't giving into those struggles because they have anxiety about the potential consequences for giving into the struggles, and erase the anxiety, so you give no fucks anymore.
Yeah.
And then if your struggles include violence against yourself or violence against others as impulses, you don't have the barriers you had before to giving into those impulses. That is what selective serotonin reuptakers inhibitors do to you.
Yeah, we talked about that on a show not long ago. I think it was related to the other shooting,
Yeah.
the Nashville one. But the other thing that I think there is something kind of ironic. So it reminds me when Lindsay was doing the write-up, she said, wait, he used gun violence to demonstrate that gun violence is bad and that something should be done. And I said, yeah, it's like Cuties. We're gonna show you, pedophilia on screen. We're gonna sexualize children to make a point about how bad it is to sexualize children. That's totally what we're doing. So there is that. I think there is something weird about that, but also he did end up getting killed by good guys with guns. So he also made the case that, there are bad people and some of those people get guns, and the only way to stop them is a good guy with a gun. So thanks, because that's what happened. but of course his parents, he does have both of his parents, according to the write-up. So he's not in a home without a father. I don't know if it's his biological father or stepfather or whatever, it doesn't matter. But his parents are trying to sue the gun manufacturer, and I think I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I think that's ridiculous, but I guess we'll see. But yeah,
I thought it was
it.
the victims that were trying to sue the gun manufacturer.
Oh, was it the victims? Let me go back.
Yeah, the victims' families. But it does
victims'
matter.
families are planning to sue the rifle maker. Yeah, so that means
It does matter a difference too, biological father and stepfather, because there is a connection with your biological father that doesn't quite like it's a step. And I can say this as a stepmother. There's a difference in connection, and you cannot. A stepmom can be great. A stepdad can be great if they, make an effort to be a great parent and love and care about that kid. But you never can fully replace the whole left if the biological parent isn't there. Even if it's because the biological parent died, right? You can do your best, but that connection is just a little bit limited, even in the best case scenario.
Yep.
And honestly, most of the time with a stepdad, it is not the best case scenario. A lot of times there was a divorce, there was never married parents. Maybe the mom chose a guy that didn't want to be a dad to conceive children with, and all that kind of stuff. So you don't know what's going on there. And it's not necessarily the same.
Yeah. All right, anybody else have any final thoughts on this before we move on? Okay, we're going to move on to the next story if there's nothing else. Mike J., I thought you would have something to say about that last one. You're a big gun guy, so.
You guys did a pretty good job summing up my thoughts on this.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it feels like one of these conversations I've just had a million times. You know?
Yeah. No, I know. I understand. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about Eric Adams. Mike J., you are up, my friend.
Oh boy. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been accused of sexual assaults. A woman has named Adams, the NYPD, and two unknown entities as defendants as part of a new filing. Case alleges that over 30 years ago, 3 decades, over a quarter of a century, quote, plaintiff was sexually assaulted by defendant Eric Adams in New York, in 1993, while they both worked for the city of New York. The claims brought here allege intentional and negligent acts and omissions for physical, psychological, and other injuries suffered as a result of conduct that would constitute sexual offenses, end quotes. This lawsuit comes right before New York's Adult Survivors Act expires, the act that eliminated the statute of limitations on cases of sexual abuse. Adams denies all the allegations, stating, quote, they are absolutely not true. I would never do anything to harm anyone. My career speaks for itself. Just really something that absolutely has never happened. I don't even recall meeting the person who made this allegation, end quote. Furthermore, the NYPD has stated that no record of the woman working for them exists.
I have to wonder how much of the overall legislative process of making ever more and more laws is just a history of leftists trying to create excuses to arrest their political enemies, only to realize they're mostly arresting their own supporters. Let's ban drugs. Whoops, we're jailing mostly lefties. Let's ban gambling. Whoops, we're jailing mostly lefties. Let's make sure we always believe women and let them accuse any man they want of sexually assaulting them at any point in ancient history. Well, whoops-a-daisy. This isn't helping us arrest Trump either. And wouldn't you know it, our very own Democrats are on the lion's share of the receiving end of accusations by women who we feel we should not, in fact, be believing on these occasions. Why does this keep happening? It's because you're assholes and liars and cheaters and thieves and traitors. You've been above the law for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to live below it. You've lived only to take the law and bend it back on itself so that you can get away with anything, and anyone who doesn't like it gets gulagged. And your hubris is finally overtaking your criminality. Your bloodlust to see your enemies perish is growing faster than your ability to cover up your own felonies, or even your own misdemeanors, or even those random moments where you brushed past a woman's elbow and now she's accusing you of rape. Or maybe it's a woman who really has never even met you before, and all she's doing is opportunistically taking advantage of a law on which you signed off. Democrat man. You thought you were immune. You thought as a man you'd be immune because of one arm of your ideology. You thought as a black man you'd be immune from a different arm of your ideology. You thought maybe as someone who very evidently has an IQ like the temperature of a brisk autumn day in the Yukon, maybe the pitchfork mob would be lenient with you as the massive retard you are. But you didn't understand. The weapon you created to destroy your enemies is like a nuclear rifle, which, yes, was a thing that really was developed. It's a gun that fires a round of atomic munitions a distance of a mile or so. You can see why it was discontinued. It necessarily subjects the fire.
Sounds like some shit from Fallout.
Yeah, it subjects.
Wasn't that the Davy Crockett?
Yeah, right. Sounds like some
no,
shit from Fallout.
That's what it was called. It was
Yeah.
It's in Metal Gear Solid 3 at the very beginning in a cutscene.
Yeah, it can be used to kill someone, very much so, but it subjects the fire of the gun to a slow but inevitable and painful.
See, the trick is you got to
Yes.
fire it from a helicopter.
There you go.
A very high-flying helicopter and hope for the best. And for whatever reasons, you poor bastards didn't have the sense to discontinue a weapon that was clearly and plainly going to destroy you, to destroy everyone who fired it. And I can't even muster the Schadenfreude to make light of this situation, because the vast majority of the people you've vaporized, the people whose livelihoods you have pink misted on a whim, are innocent men. You melted thousands of innocent men before there was any chance of the radiation giving you the squits that would eventually end your life. And that was the point, wasn't it? You didn't care that you were killing yourself as long as you took out a bunch of other people first. Because you're an evil bastard. You're not just wielding a weapon of evil. You are a weapon of evil. You absolute weapon. You absolute tool. That's why we call you a tool. It's not just a euphemism for penis. It's a much worse insult. A true insult. You would rather be someone else's weapon than be your own man. So, yeah, fuck this cunt. I hope they shank him in prison. I hope an immigrant...
Do you know the weird timing of this allegation, by the way? Because we're talking about something 30 years old.
Yeah, he happened to have just said immigrants on the Good for New York. So yeah. Sorry, Eric.
He's getting knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
I hope an immigrant who came all the way to New York City from Texas to his God-given sanctuary city shanks this dopey motherfucker in prison and then rapes the wound. Sorry, not sorry. I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of this shit. All right.
Conor McGregor just entered the chat.
No, it's life.
Okay, Hannah, go ahead.
It's to the point now where I'm seeing normies on Twitter say anytime an allegation is more than so many years old or used to destroy someone in politics, I automatically don't believe it. So I hate false allegations. It's good that people are starting to see them for what they are, and obviously, in our line of work, we're looking at this as an allegation that's unproven. And why the hell, didn't she say something back then? Because the law supported her even back then. It's interesting that there's no record of her working ever with the city, because they do have to have that information just in case of things like you try to get Social Security disability and Social Security says, well, we don't have a record that you worked during this span of time, so you're not eligible. And you should be able to go back to your employer and say, hey, I need evidence that I worked for you during this time. The Social Security Administration doesn't have it. So obviously, if there's not a record, it's more indicative that she didn't work for them and that this never happened. And yeah, there is a bit of Schadenfreude in that, it's a lefty getting a taste of lefty medicine, but still got to remember. False allegations are hell. People who are religious, and in particular people who practice Christianity, should be profoundly offended by false allegations. The commandment to not lie doesn't say don't lie. It says don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Don't falsely accuse. Right? That's what that is. But yeah. It is definitely good to see people starting to realize what this is, what's actually happening when this occurs, and become jaded over it, and give no fucks about the accuser, and say, hey, I don't believe it. I don't believe it until you come out with proof. I don't believe it because you waited too long. I don't believe it because it's politically targeted. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit, and it's not affecting my outlook. I want to see more of that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that it takes false allegations happening against, or unprovable, at least, allegations happening against more men for that to happen. At least they're politicians. They're still men.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
true.
still a due process issue. It's
Another thing
still
that's interesting about the timing is that it was like right before. Was it right before this Survivors Act expires?
right.
So that's another
Yeah, they
thing
had to
that's
get it
kind
in
of
at the last minute.
Yeah,
little
and that's
delicious.
actually one
it's
of the
still-
things that happened. You had
it-
thousands of these flooding in the
Right.
day before this lapsed.
And it's still the same
oh
issue.
my god.
It's still a horrific thing to do to somebody. It still wrecks their lives. Maybe not in this case. Maybe because people are becoming jaded over it. That I mean, it is exhausting to just see one after another lie. Accuse, try to keep people down, try to keep people. It's just horrible watching this happen, and watching it happen to men. And seeing people fall for it over and over again. Oh, he was accused. And if enough time goes by, there will be people who will say, well, he was obviously proved guilty because the media reported on it. I just got lambasted on Twitter by some rando for supporting Bill Cosby and supporting Harvey Weinstein, who are obviously, in this person's mind,
They're
sexual
monsters.
predators.
The media told me
monsters.
so.
And I
always
keep
believe
saying,
them.
what's your proof? Well, they don't have it. They keep just saying, well, it's obvious. Well, how is it obvious? Why is it obvious? Well, if you don't know that, there's something wrong with you. No, dude. If you don't know what your arguments are based on, but you're adamant about them, it's because you've been manipulated by the media. Again. But yeah.
Yes.
Back to what I was originally saying. The one comfort we can take from shit like this happening to politicians, to men in politics in particular, is that people are starting to see through it. And I'm hoping that will mean that in the future, because it won't be useful, because people will see through it, because it won't affect how they vote, it won't affect what they believe, it won't affect what they support, then it'll become a tool that gets tossed by the wayside. If it's not useful, if it doesn't affect things, then there's no point in doing it. And a lot of work goes into this. So they won't do that work. So that's my hope. I don't like the idea that any man, even an absolute shit stain of a politician, has to be sacrificed to make it happen. I don't like that.
It shouldn't be
and
this
I
way,
would put a
but
stop
this
to
is
it,
how-
personally, if I could.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening.
Yeah, this is
and
like
the
the believe
silver
all
lining-
women thing taken to its
Right.
logical extreme.
The silver lining is that maybe we'll get to a point where we automatically believe no women. None. That would be
shouldn't.
perfect.
Yes. That's why Paul Elam says that if he was ever on a jury and there was an allegation, he would always he said that he would always vote.
He would always engage in jury nullification, which is
he would always
you
do
vote. You vote regardless of what evidence you're shown in court, because you know that they can't show you, that you can't be guaranteed that they've shown you all of the evidence. And this is something that came out quite a bit in discussion, actually, when Biden was running for office with Harris, because one of the things that she was well known for in California was suppressing exculpatory evidence. Exculpatory evidence is evidence that indicates the innocence of the accused. And that is routine in criminal cases, particularly criminal cases where the woman is, where the accuser is a woman and the crime is violence, sexual violence or intimate partner violence. Exculpatory evidence gets excluded from those cases routinely, including evidence of prior consent, evidence of prior relationship, evidence of intent by the woman to engage in a sex act, evidence that the woman could have not continued, could have left the situation and chose to remain in it, evidence that the woman was the instigator. Like, these are things that actually get routinely excluded from these cases. So I would
Yep.
agree. I would do the same thing. And I'm saying that as somebody who's been through it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been both a victim of intimate partner and sexual violence, and violence that had, you know, stranger violence, acquaintance violence. I've seen a lot of violence, and I've also been falsely accused. So
Mhm.
my false allegation wasn't like what a lot of men go through. It wasn't a sexual violence allegation. It was I was falsely accused of defending myself against an attacker, and had to fight that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All
So
right.
I honestly I hope, as horrible as it is to say, you know, that anything good can come from false allegations, I hope that people at least fucking learn from this,
Mhm.
that you cannot just believe women. You look for evidence. You use your logic. You use reason. And you demand, again, that your devil, your government, start doing the same thing. Stop excluding exculpatory evidence from cases.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that, and let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. I did get a super chow from HBR News 433, so I guess that's their name. Interesting name. I hope it's on the birth certificate. And they say for $5, thank you for the great show and great discussion. Thank you. I'm gonna let Badger Chan rest. She's been jumping for like minutes and minutes. And also give Jojo a pat if you guys could. Just pat my dog for me because he wants it, and I can't do that for him because I'm doing the show. So let us know what you guys
And
think
he's a
about.
good boy.
He is a good boy. He should know that. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments, and we're gonna move on to the final story. All right. And there she is again. I gotta get rid of her. Get out of here. Okay. All right. So El Monte, a city in Los Angeles County, California, is embroiled in conflict at the municipal level. Gabby Leos, a community activities and volunteer, was distributing flyers for a meeting on traffic safety in 2002. Mayor Jessica Ancona, seeking a second term, allegedly accused Leos of campaigning for Ancona's opponent. Quote, I showed her the flyers and then she turned around and she goes, well, I wouldn't put it past you. And I thought, whoa, like, where's that coming from? End quote, Leos recounted during a recent city council meeting. Leos wrote a strongly worded email to the mayor and city council expressing her grievances. The email, which included derogatory language, was allegedly sent by Mayor Ancona to Leos's employer, sparking a 6-month ethics investigation. Attorney David Torres Segrist is representing Leos. He said that when the mayor couldn't get my client fired, she banned Leos from volunteering for any city-related events. Leos also claimed that Mayor Ancona sent a public works crew to paint her curb red outside of her house in an effort to reduce her parking space. She fought against it successfully and put the red curb on pause. Leos also alleged that Mayor Ancona sent a recently released gang member, so thugs, to her house in an attempt to intimidate her. Leo said about Ancona, quote, you've now crossed so many lines with me because I called you a chola, because I criticized you for your behavior, and this is the extent you're going to. When is she going to stop? So I picked this, it's a small story, but I wanted to show you how people like this woman she is a mayor, and she's using her power as a politician to intimidate her opponents, or at least people that she perceives as opponents. She's using the law, so she's trying to make the space in front of her house illegal. She sent like gang members to her house to intimidate her, and that was why. It's a small one, but I thought it was relevant. That's why I chose it. So, if you guys have any thoughts on that.
It's very possible that this intimidation behavior is happening. I mean, like, city politics politicians get weird when they do stuff like that. When my mom was defending a falsely accused man on city council, we had a small town controversy, and the shortest version I can give you is there was, and this is a cop, all right? There's a cop that came to my hometown from the DEA in, I want to say, the late 70s, early 80s, to catch a drug ring. And our cops arrested him repeatedly because he was so good at infiltrating this drug ring, and they were embarrassed. And then they ended up sort of reconciling. He became part of the city police force. And years later, when the chief, who was chief when that all went down, when he retired, this sergeant, this guy was a sergeant at that point, he was in the running for that title with some other guys. And in the meantime, another sergeant that was buddies with the mayor and the service director, they wanted to sort of create a club of, mayor, service director, police chief all being friends, and they tried changing rules as to evaluating them and doing it through testing and all that, and he still couldn't outperform this former DEA sergeant. So they trumped up some false charges against him, sleeping on the job and drug use, illegal drug use. And there was a controversy for about a year and a half in my hometown when I was in high school, started when I was in high school. And during that time, the sergeant that was friends with the service director and the mayor was acting police chief. And we had some of the weirdest harassment. We were subjected to gang stalking, which is supposed to be fiction. Like, they actually followed us around town. I was followed to work on a regular basis.
Wow.
They picked my brother out of a line of traffic and met him at his girlfriend's house to ticket him for driving through a particular area at the speed, the average speed of traffic. But the weirdest was they made up a lie about one of the trees on the tree lawn out, like the little narrow patch of grass between the sidewalk and the street outside our house, that was the tree on the southern exposure, which provides shade in the summertime and helps keep your electric bill lower. Your air conditioning doesn't have to be as high use, and they cut it down. So they killed a tree to get, intimidate my mom into shutting up about this. Because of her, they ended up doing hearings and everything. They made it public instead of just secret hearings. They televised them and everything. She's the only one that didn't sign off on the initial changes. She's the only one that asked questions. She's the only one that got reelected and ended up as president of the city council during that time and ran the hearings. And so, like, you guys want to know where my thoughts on false allegations come from. That was probably the first case that I understood, that I was old enough to understood when I was seeing it happen. And so this kind of weird intimidation of manipulating the local statutes, like the red line is probably something along the lines of, you can't park here because there's a fire hydrant on the corner, or because visibility is bad at this corner, or whatever. They may have had no indication, no interest in doing that until this time, and suddenly they want to harass this individual, so they're going to do that. And it always sounds crazy when the person complains that it's being done, but those little things do occur, and it is quite inconveniencing. And so I like, that is a distinct possibility. But it's also possible that, not me not knowing the situation, it's also possible that this individual has completely made this up and they are crazy and this behavior is completely random. So not knowing more
Yeah,
about the
that's
story,
possible.
it's
I
just.
mean, we're dealing with both. They're both women, so. Who
But that did
knows?
strike me that she did fight the red curb and got it, put on pause. That
Mhm.
indicates that something might actually be going on there, because that doesn't usually happen in like they don't
Yeah.
usually do that kind of targeted thing. And the whole thing with the gang member sounds interesting too, because
Mhm.
well, the city
Well, he was
did
like recently released from prison and sent to her house,
Yeah.
according to her.
Yep.
So-
There were some things similar to that occurred in our situation as well, including two drug dealers moving onto our block because of that. That was facilitated. So kind of
Yep.
weird there.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all the stories. So, and we're right on time. We're gonna. Does anyone have any final thoughts on this one? Okay. Well, this is basically like, although my thinking was it was interesting because I don't know. It's like it go to reflects on what Hannah said about like giving women political power.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's unique to women, but I think that there is definitely like a opportunity for women to be more power hungry because there's less accountability for it. So I think that's why I chose it. I thought it was interesting too.
It's
But anyway,
almost inevitable. It's not quite inevitable. You have to have a woman who is accountable on her own, which is without like that is a rare person, man or woman, that they are so accountable on their own that they can be trusted without you having any leverage to make them accountable. And that is not likely with women because they're not raised to be that way. Maybe a farm girl, because you lack accountability on a farm, you end up getting injured or killed. It's women shouldn't be trusted in politics. Women have exploited politics and voting rights to steal from men. Women basically voted themselves into your wallets, and that's where they are now. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that this shit happens when a woman is a politician.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's more opportunity for it and less accountability. But anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comment section. So I did get a super chat from Jed77 who gives us $4.99 in pounds. That's £4.99, I guess. I'm gonna get better at pence. Yeah,
I don't know.
Jed77 says, "Thank you, Jed. We've lost all sense of proportion. A woman accused a 13-year-old boy of touching her bum in a 7-Eleven until CCTV showed his backpack brushing against her." Yeah, that is. The UK is a mess. I don't know what else to say, but like we're not that much better. So like it's just we got to stop pandering to female whining. We have to stop. And I think we're getting there. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway,
guys need to start filing sexual harassment complaints against women who do shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, anyway, we're going to wrap it up there. We're going to head into the patron show and look at this article from the Mary Sue. Transphobes are mad about aliens having pronouns. Again, I'd like to know what the previous example of this is. And it's basically talking about the new Doctor Who, which I heard was awful, but I would never know because I'm not going to watch it. But we'll see what they have to say. So now that basically all of our popular culture has become feminist, let's see how much fun everyone has. That's kind of where we're at now. So anyway, if you want to join us, please consider becoming a badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to participate and watch all the additional content. But if you don't want, or if you can't, You could just go in for free, and the free, it doesn't give you all the access, but it gives you kind of a taste of what it is by going to badgernation.online. And I should remind everybody that we are still doing our monthly fundraiser. This is how I am able to keep a roof over my head for me, Lindsay, and JoJo, who you see is sleeping comfortably. You don't want my dog out in the cold, right? You don't want my dog, JoJo, out in the cold. He can't handle it. He is a home dog. He likes to do this, and I'd like to do this for him. I do it for JoJo. Go to BeTheBadger.com/support to keep JoJo happy and healthy, and also keep the show going. I know that's really what you want, because we still have a ways to go, and the month is almost over. And yeah, but anyway, we hope we'll see you guys in the patron show, or maybe in the chat watching, or maybe just come into the badgernation.online like I said. So I look forward hopefully to seeing you guys. All right, so if you like this video, please smash like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, keep the conversation going, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show. And also, if anyone is watching that's in Australia or is familiar with this story, I would like to have a better and less biased perspective on this Bruce Lerman defamation case that's been like all over the news in Australia. A woman accused him of something, and everywhere I look, it's all like, you know, he's presumed guilty. So if anyone is either Australian or is familiar with the story, give us some, you know, insight into it in the comments, and or you can contact us on Discord and put it there, so that I can cover it and not be completely wrong. So anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit the bell for notifications. Thanks, guys, for coming on today's news show, and we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.